Hello everyone and welcome to another Rewind Reviews recommendation. In this video we are taking a look at the shiniest gorram show this side of the universe. So grab your brown coats, beanies and toy dinosaurs as we dive into Firefly. Initially released in 2002 on Fox, Firefly takes place 500 years in the future, where a renegade aboard a small spacecraft tries to survive as they travel the unknown parts of the galaxy and evade warring factions as well as authority agents out to get them. Created by Joss Whedon, this sci-fi western show stars Nathan Fillion, Gina Torres, Alan Tudyk, Marina Baccarin, Adam Baldwin, Jewel State, Sean Mayer, Summer Glau and Ron Glass. This is one of those shows that I've been wanting to talk about on this channel for quite some time now. Partly to justify why this poster is still on my wall, but also I'm often quite surprised how few people seem to know about this show. To be honest, when it comes to me and my history with this show, it's a little bit all over the place because I actually saw the movie first and I wasn't aware that this was a series. And the reason why that I saw the movie first was because at the time that I saw the movie for the first time, The Avengers had just been released in cinemas and Joss Whedon, the co-writer and director of that movie, was the creator for this series and I was quite curious to see what else he'd made. And not long after The Avengers had been released in cinemas, Serenity was being broadcast on TV. So that's why I saw it first. And I remember thinking at the time that yeah, I did like it and I did have fun with it, but it did feel like I was missing something. Like maybe I had jumped into the middle of the story, and it turned out I had. It took a while for me to actually watch the series. I wasn't really in a rush for it, but one day I was out shopping and I spotted the box set. And when I saw that, I remembered watching the movie and I thought, you know what, I want to give the series a go. So I decided to get it, I bought it, took it home, I started watching it, and I must have blitzed through the entire thing over a weekend. I thought this show was absolutely brilliant and it made my subsequent rewatch of Serenity even better. The only downside being that this is only the one season after it was prematurely cancelled by Fox. One of their many mistakes when it comes to their handling of this show, including how it was released. This show was originally intended to be a 7-season long TV series in a similar vein to Joss Whedon's other creation, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The entire series is 14 episodes long and each episode is about 45 minutes. But for some reason, whoever was in charge of scheduling at Fox at the time, when it came to releasing episodes of this series, they decided to release multiple episodes completely out of order. And it sounds like there was a lot of creative differences and a lot of clashing going on behind the scenes as well, mainly between the people at Fox and the people who were creating the show. But unfortunately, that does mean that there are a lot of elements in this show that either don't get addressed or paid off, as they were intended to be in later seasons. The movie Serenity acts as a finale of sorts and does manage to tie up some loose ends and pay off some big plot points, but unfortunately it's not able to do everything that you hope it will. So if you do decide to check this series out, please bear that in mind and make sure that you watch Serenity afterwards. So what can you expect from Firefly? Firefly is a TV show that blurs together two very different genres, and those are futuristic science fiction and old school western. The best comparisons I can think of for how it feels is it's a lot like the earlier seasons of The Mandalorian and the Bounty Hunter episodes of the Clone Wars. To be honest, it would not surprise me if some elements from this show had some sort of influence over some of the creative decisions when it came to either of those shows, especially when it comes to the design of the Razor Crest, which is eerily similar to the Serenity. To be fair, it is an iconic design and easily recognisable, even when it made a brief appearance in Ready Player One. It's one of my favourite spaceships in any media. I love everything about it, from the design to the way that it feels quite homely. I love Serenity that much that during one of my courses at university, we had to create a 3D model of a vehicle, and I chose to do Serenity. And I won't lie, it is one of the best things that I made while I was there. Anyway, the ship is also the reason why the show is called Firefly. The ship is called Serenity and it's a Firefly class spaceship, and that's where the title for both the series and the movie come from. This is a proper TV show. It isn't one continuous story across all 14 episodes. It's episodic. Every episode is a different adventure. There are some elements that do get carried across from episode to episode, but it's mainly character development. The stories that you can expect in this show include things like a train heist, a supposedly arranged marriage. I quite like that one. Assassins on the hunt for some of the passengers, fancy shindigs and more. It's pretty varied and the tone of each episode can shift as well. Sometimes it can be quite dark and dramatic, other times it's quite light and comedic. I should say this series is not a comedy, in fact it can get quite dark at times. But with that said, this is such a funny show and there are so many brilliant and quirky, very in-character gags. Some of the best ones come from Wash, played by Alan Tudyk, but everyone does get their moments. I swear by my pretty floral bonnet, I will end you. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. Watch the show, both of those will make sense. This is a Joss Whedon creation and Despite what's gone on with him over the years, he was a brilliant writer who was excellent at balancing both drama and comedy and creating characters that felt both human and likeable. There are 9 main characters that we follow in this series, and each one of them are brilliant. Apparently, when this show was pitched, it was originally described as 9 people staring out into the blackness of space and seeing 9 different things. There's one episode where each character gets interviewed separately, and it's a how-to on character development and balancing an ensemble cast. All of the characters do feel very fleshed out, developed and individual, and that episode is a prime example of how well it's done. They all feel believable and very well defined. How they are played, written, interact and clash is one of the best aspects of this show, and every one of them is memorable. Mal, played by Nathan Fillion, is the ship's owner and captain. Zoe, played by Gina Torres, is the second in command and wartime friend of Mal's. Wash, played by Alan Tudyk, is the Serenity's pilot and the husband of Zoe. Inara, played by Marina Baccarin, is something called a companion who rents one of the shuttles aboard the Serenity and gives the crew a sense of legitimacy. Jane, played by Adam Baldwin, is a mercenary who can be easily swayed with some money. Kaylee, played by Jules State, is the ship's mechanic and often described as the heart of the ship. Simon, played by Sean Mayer, is a trauma surgeon on the run after breaking out his sister from a government research facility. River, played by Summer Glau, is Simon's sister and the most unpredictable member of the ship, often being delusional and paranoid and sometimes violent or showing psychic abilities. And lastly, Buck, played by Ron Glass, who is something called a shepherd. He's a religious person but seemingly has more connections to the Alliance and has a pretty good understanding of the criminal underworld than he initially lets on. One thing that I love is that each episode takes an opportunity to try and separate the characters up into different groups, so you get all these different dynamics and you see how all the characters interact with each other, and doing that leads to some pretty funny and sometimes heartfelt interactions, if they can stop arguing. As I said, because this is only the 1 season long, not every single one of the characters is able to be developed as deeply as others, and this is all stuff that would have been handled in later seasons, but they are all brilliantly fleshed out within the time that we spend with them. We do get to see some of their backstories, but it is disappointing that we don't get to see more, especially Buck, who is easily the most interesting and mysterious character of the bunch. His story does get explored in the tie-in comics, but unfortunately within the show it is left unresolved. What happens with River, however, is one of the more prominent stories in this series that does get paid off, but only in the movie. But it is disappointing overall how much is able to be resolved within the show. There is a lot of other characters that do appear throughout the series, and they all bring something different to the table. There's members of the underworld, people who work within the Alliance, and the occasional appearance of the terrifying Reavers. Reavers don't really appear that often throughout the series, but they are quite unnerving when they do pop up. This show is admittedly a 12 in the UK, but even so, I would stress caution to younger viewers. I reckon this is much more closer to a 15. The movie, which is tonally very similar to the series, is rated a 15, so keep that in mind. Also, bear in mind, this is a TV show that came out in the early 2000s, and it does very much feel like something that did come out of the early 2000s. In some areas it can feel a little bit dated, but in others it does hold up surprisingly quite well. One area where it is a little bit mixed is the effects and overall use of CG. To be honest, it actually doesn't look too bad overall, and I feel the reason for that is because they do prioritise practicality. Partially for budget reasons, but also because it fits the gritty, grounded tone that you normally find in westerns. Anything in this show that does require a little bit of effects work is used quite sparingly, and it's incorporated in a very believable way. Even though the effects don't always look 100% realistic, how they are used throughout the series does work quite well. The sound design is pretty good too. I also want to quickly mention the music from composer Greg Edmondson. This is another aspect of the show that really helps sell the western vibe. It sounds nice and it fits well, but the main theme, the one used in the opening title sequence, sounds amazing. It's a song called The Ballad of Serenity, and it's sung by blues singer Sonny Rhodes. It is the perfect theme song for this show, and it sounds amazing. And just like the score, it does a really good job of highlighting the western vibe. It does not sound like something that you would hear in a sci-fi series. I love it, and I think that it is worth listening to. Overall, I think this is a brilliant show that sci-fi fans need to see at least once. As I said, there is a lot of stuff in this that is left unanswered, but the characters, the individual stories, the humour, the tone, the aesthetic, and the blending of different genres are fantastic. I honestly feel like there is enough in this show to enjoy to justify seeing it, even if you aren't really a big fan of either science fiction or westerns. Just make sure that you watch the movie afterwards. I absolutely love this show, and without question it is one that I would highly recommend. Well, that is pretty much everything I want to say for this video, so if you have watched this video, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy this content, please be sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification button. If you have seen Firefly, let me know down in the comments what you think about it, what your favourite episode is or quote. And as always, if you have any suggestions for any future Rewind reviews or recommendations you would like to see me do in the future, let me know down below. And be sure to keep an eye out for my my rewind review of Serenity coming very soon. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. See you guys.